Hello Year 11, welcome to revision week 10. Today we are looking at protocols, the difference between sending data on the LAN versus WAN, and packet switching. To start with, can you make sure you've got revision sheet 9 out ready to complete? We won't be doing the whole of this today, but we are doing several important sections on this sheet. Revision sheet 9, please. Pause and then continue when you're ready. Okay, to start off with, let's remind ourselves, what is a protocol? A protocol is a set of rules for how devices communicate and how they transmit or send data on a network. So it's the rules for how devices communicate and how they send data or transmit data across a network. Could be a LAN, could be a WAN. Protocols cover things such as how the data should be start and end, how it should start and end, how it should be organized into chunks like packets and frames, and what should happen if data goes missing. So if one of the frames or the packets goes missing, what should the computers do? A set of rules for how devices communicate and how data is transmitted on a network. Can you complete this now by writing it down onto your sheet, please, in the section that says protocol. Okay, let's check. Let's see if you got this right. A set of rules for how devices communicate or how they send data on a network. And if you have space, I know it's a small box, but try to remember that it's how communication starts, ends, how its data is organized, and what happens if data goes missing. Those are things done by protocols. Check your answers, then let's move on. Okay, so we know what a protocol is. We've reminded ourselves. How are protocols used on a LAN, local area network, and a WAN, the internet? How are they used to send data? Well, on a LAN, a local area network, such as what we've got in school, how is data sent? What protocols, what addresses, what devices, and what structure? Well, remember here, look, all devices on the LAN have a MAC address. We reminded that in the last video, MAC address. Okay, so all devices have a MAC address that is linked to their network interface card, the NIC, that is in a computer. The LAN uses the Ethernet protocol, the rules, the Ethernet protocol, remember there's the Ethernet cable as well, to send data. So Ethernet is a protocol, it's a standard way of sending data on a LAN. And data is broken down into small chunks called frames. So when you're sending data on a LAN, it's broken up into frames. And those frames have the source address and the MAC address, destination address, where it's going to, and a small little chunk of data. And frames are directed using switches, the devices on the LAN. A switch reads the data and reads the MAC address and then sends it on where it needs to go to. So on the LAN we have Ethernet protocol, frames, switches, and MAC addresses. What's different about the internet or a WAN? How is data sent on a WAN, such as the internet? What protocols, addresses, devices, and structure? Well, remember the internet is much bigger. Okay, so on the internet, files are broken down into something called packets. And a packet has the IP address of the destination where it's going to, and the source where it's come from. And packets also have numbers. They're numbered 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever, okay? And a little chunk of data. So files are broken down into packets. The TCP/IP protocol is used to send each packet across the internet. So TCP/IP. And the IP addresses are used to get to its destination. So remember last lesson we looked at IP addresses. Every single device connected to a WAN, such as the internet, is given a different IP address, an internet position protocol address. Okay? And those packets then travel through the internet, through the WAN, from the source to the destination using the IP addresses. And routers, like you have in your home, routers are used to direct the packets onwards through the internet. So on a WAN we have packets, we have the TCP/IP protocol, we have IP addresses, and we have routers used to direct the packets. And that process is called packet switching. We will look at that in a moment. Packet switching. Okay, so in summary, a protocol is a set of rules for how devices communicate and how the data is sent. On a LAN, we have every network card has a MAC address. Data is broken up into frames. MAC addresses are used by switches to direct the data, and we have the Ethernet protocol. On the internet, every device has an IP address. Data is broken up into packets, and data is directed by routers using packet switching, and it's the TCP/IP protocol. So we've got different units, different devices, and different frames for each. Make sure you're happy with that, and then let's do the activity. Okay, complete these two sections then, please. LANs at the top and WANs at the bottom. Try and get the main points in. What type of address, what type of protocol, what type of device, and what units for both. Have a go and then check your answers in the next section of the video. Okay, hopefully you've written down your knowledge. Let's check. So on a LAN, we have MAC addresses sent using frames, read by switches, and using the Ethernet protocol. Those are the main 4 bits of knowledge you need to know on a LAN. On a WAN, such as the internet, we have IP addresses, data sent as packets read by routers, directed using packet switching, which we're about to look at, and it uses the TCP/IP protocol. Okay, checking your answers, paper, pen, improve. When you're done, let's continue on. Okay, part 3. This is now looking at how that data is sent across a WAN, across the internet, using packet switching, which we just talked about briefly. So when data is sent across a WAN, such as the internet, remember it's broken down into packets. We've got the TCP/IP protocol, we've got IP addresses, and the packets are sent through the internet. And routers are used to direct the packets. But how does it work? How does this bit in the middle work? What is happening with the packet switching? Let's have a look in a bit more detail. Packet switching. Well, packet switching is basically the TCP/IP's way of directing the packets through the internet. Okay, TCP splits the data up into packets, so it splits up a file into equal sized packets, little chunks. The IP protocol directs the packets through the internet, and that's used by routers. The IP protocol is used by routers to control the packet switching. And then finally, at the other end again, the TCP protocol checks the packets, it reassembles them in the original order, and then it sends a receipt to confirm that it's arrived, or a message to say if it's gone corrupt or one is missing. So it checks, reassembles, and sends a receipt at the other end. Okay, so 2 protocols, TCP on either end, and the IP protocol in the middle that controls the packet switching. So very simply, TCP are the rules for how devices connect on the network, how they split up the packets, reassemble and check. And the IP protocol is responsible for the packet switching, for directing the data using routers, directing the packets using routers. Okay? Commit that to your mind, and then let's write that down. Last thing today. On the sheet, we're not doing any of the protocols today. I just want you to write down the notes. What is the TCP and what is the IP protocol? Just those 2 in the important protocol section. Checking your answer. Now, here we go. TCP, the rules for how devices connect on the network, splits, reassembles, checks the data sent and received. And the IP is responsible for packet switching, for directing the data using the routers. Checking, correcting, paper or pen. Okay, finally, now you've done your revision for today. On LearnCube Dean, revision quiz 10. Check your answer, each answer. Make sure you try again if you're not getting the correction correct. And I will see you in lesson. Remember, this is due for me to check. See you in lesson.